If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come, bring my spirits up. There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to do an intro update and also second part of the video here. I'll recap day one of the trial for Paul and Ruben Flores regarding the 1996 rape and murder of Cal Poly student Kristin Smart. The different parties were arriving at the Monterey County Courthouse in Salinas today. You can see here the attorneys arriving. There's Singer, who is Paul's defense attorney. You will also see the prosecution attorneys as well as Susan Flores escorting her ex-husband, Ruben Flores, to court. As we know, Ruben is not locked up, so he is able to come to court with Susan each morning. I've always thought the relationship was extremely odd, but here they are, the stars of the show. Of course, we have our main star, Paul Flores, who is being escorted from jail to the courthouse. I just wanted to touch on my loose connection, I'll say, to the case. And not only am I connected to the case because I'm a California native and I've lived here in San Luis Obispo County for over 13 years, I was also born and raised in Napa, California, where I lived until my move here in 2009. I carry Kristin in my heart. I must confess, I do follow true crime, and I always feel empathy for the victims and families and their loved ones. But with Kristin, it's deeper. I pray for justice and that her remains are found. She was a junior at Vintage High School when she attended, and her father, Stan Smart, was the principal at the time. She did return to her original high school in Stockton to graduate, but she does have the connection to Napa, and I recall seeing the missing posters all over town at the time that Kristin disappeared so many years ago. Here's some of the coverage from major news outlets the morning before day one of the trial as we're waiting to report on today's testimony, which actually is opening statements today. They talked about Ruben's Arroyo Grande home only being 12 miles south of Cal Poly. And in March of 2021, they found soil disturbance the size of a casket with presence of human blood. The blood was too degraded to extract the DNA. Experts do say it's human blood. The test used did not rule out the possibility it was from a ferret or ape, however. Records do show no animal remains were found there. The Smart family's civil attorney, James Murphy, said, quote, "The size of the area in which the blood was found would make it a prehistoric ferret. That would be in Jurassic Park," end quote. As mentioned in my last videos, some testimony regarding Paul's history of stalking, inappropriate touching, aggressive sexual behavior, drugging, rapes, and other allegations will be allowed. And some testimony will not be allowed. At least 4 Los Angeles women accused Paul of raping them. Over the years, women referred to him as, quote, Chester the Molester, and, quote, Psycho Paul. Judge Jennifer O'Keefe, who was a year younger than Kristin would be today, ruled that the defense suggesting alternative suspects, unless Singer can provide evidence of their direct involvement, will not be allowed. This relates to previous attempts to involve convicted murderer Scott Peterson as a possible suspect in Kristin's murder. He attended Cal Poly at the same time as Kristin and Paul did, back in 1996.
Really, this case is almost part of the culture here, if you will. You know, there's my son grew up looking at the billboards and listening to the news coverage, and certainly I think a lot of the people who live here are really intensely familiar with the case, and that was obviously the reason for moving it, in order to make sure that there was they were able to seat an impartial jury and get a fair trial. But it really is kind of ingrained, if you will, kind of in the culture, both through the Cal Poly culture and really through the interest in the surrounding community.
Yeah, it is fascinating. It is a cloud over that over the area, and as you mentioned, the Smart family's not from there. It is, and Kristin was only there for a short period of time. It's the idea that this could happen here in this beautiful spot of the country and at an institution like Cal Poly, and the mystery of what happened to her. What happened to her? Obviously, the community still gripped to it. Rich is going to stick.
Well, I've checked all my resources, and there was no big bombshells that I've been able to discover in opening statements today. Today being July 18th, 2022. Most of the info we've known. I'm going to do a recap. Like I said, nothing too exciting. Deputy DA stated in opening statements, quote, evidence will show that Paul murdered Kristin Smart and buried her under the deck, end quote. Prosecution laid out a timeline, which you can see here. They highlighted the upcoming testimony from witnesses. He told jurors that it is believed Paul walked Kristin to the dorm on the Cal Poly campus, murdered her before moving her body to his dad's house with Ruben's help. Jurors were shown photos of Paul's dorm room and covered expected testimony of 4 different cadaver dogs who alerted to a smell of decomposition in Paul's dorm room. Jurors were told about several searches at Ruben's home. Soil samples tested positive for human blood. Prosecution mentioned the 2020 federal wiretap warrant, where Paul's mom, Susan, tells Paul, quote, I need you to start listening to the podcast. I need you to poke holes in it where you can, end quote. The defense for Paul claims the case is circumstantial. The defense's expert witness testimony will disagree with most of the findings, he stated. As usual, the defense put Kristin in a bad light, saying she had a bad history instead of the successful student from a tight-knit family. I refuse to repeat the nonsense said to make Kristin look bad. She can't defend herself now. Sanger wants jurors to think Kristin left on her own, which is complete nonsense in my opinion. The trial has 2 separate juries. At times, juries will be in the courtroom together, and other times they'll be separated. At the end of the trial, it's expected that there will be 2 separate verdicts, and the trial will go through October. Jennifer Judge O'Keefe will not allow audio-video recordings. Only still photography is allowed. Paul remains in custody as Ruben is out on bail. See my playlist with more details, locations, and more. Justice for Kristin.
If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come.
Thanks for
Bring
watching.
my spirits up.
Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers.
There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.